In the last video, I told you about the first metal purchase I ever made, and if that purchase was a little dumb, well, my second purchase was dumber.
I love gold!
Hey, Scrooge McStacker here. In the last video, I talked to you about the first ever metal purchase that I made. I bought from JM Bullion. I showed you some silver and gold that I purchased. I then promptly forgot about stacking for another 2 years, and then in 2019, I came back to JM Bullion and made my second ever metal purchase, which is pretty much as wacky or wackier than the first. Now, much like my first purchase, I came in and grabbed some generic silver rounds. I'm not sure how I chose the selection, but I ended up getting 10 generic silver rounds from 2 different sources, or at least with 2 different designs. You can see here that they actually look fairly similar. They're both these kind of buffalo style designs. Again, these are generic rounds. Even though they look very similar to an American buffalo, these are not coins. And they're similar, but they are different. You'll see that this buffalo here has an indentation at the center, and it has less of a ridge around the perimeter. But otherwise very, very similar. So I picked up 10 generic rounds on 2 different designs, and then that's where things begin to devolve a little bit. I then purchased a half ounce Panda coin. This one's a 2008. Now I will say it's a great looking coin. I don't think this is technically a proof coin, but notice that it has kind of the reflection that you're used to seeing in a proof coin. I think it's a great looking coin, and it wouldn't bother me to necessarily buy a Panda, but this is half an ounce. And that mistake only gets much worse when we look at the final item that I purchased in 2019, which was this 2.5 gram gold bar. Now, it's not a bad looking bar, it's just a ridiculous amount of gold, 2.5 grams. And I guess, let me qualify that. There's nothing wrong with purchasing smaller amounts of gold if you maybe can't afford the larger amounts. The mistake that I made here is that I could certainly have afforded more gold than this 2.5 gram bar. And I think maybe something swayed me about the notion that it came with, an identification number, excuse me. Maybe I thought there was more security to it. Maybe I thought it might better hold its value with the ID number. I don't know what I was thinking 2 years ago when I made that purchase. But the way that I view things now, one of the biggest goals is to avoid premium. Now, of course, the less gold or any metal really that you buy, the more premium you're going to pay. And that's because there are a lot of fixed costs. There's a certain cost to mine a material, a certain cost to refine a material, certain cost to stamp a round or a coin, shipping costs, overhead costs at the dealerships. And, some of those costs, they do vary by volume, so they cost less for smaller volumes and more for larger volumes. But some of those costs really aren't so flexible. And so what happens is this, I don't remember what the premium was on this half ounce Panda, but whatever the premium was on this half an ounce, I'm sure it was larger percentage wise than the premium on a full ounce. As for this little 2.5 gram bar here, I think the premium on this was something like 25%. 25%. A quarter of the value of this was just the privilege of purchasing it. And that's value I'm never going to get back. Even if the price goes up, I won't necessarily get it back. And that's something I'll talk about in a future video, which is this idea that if the price goes up, that means you get the premium back, that you recoup it, and that's not necessarily true. I'll talk more about that in a future video. But the point is, I could have afforded a larger volume of gold, and for whatever reason, I went with a smaller volume, a 2.5 gram bar. I might sell this at some point just to stop reminding myself of how stupid that was of me to do that. Now, for those of you who can only afford smaller amounts of gold, I get it. And that can make sense. That wasn't my situation, so I just made a plain old bad decision. So this was my second ever metal purchase. Again, the first purchase in 2017, this one in 2019. And once again, for whatever reason, I forgot to keep stacking until 2021. Now, hopefully that won't happen again. That's one of the reasons I've created this YouTube channel, is to keep myself accountable. I need your help. I need you to keep me accountable, to keep me stacking. But I've already made more purchases, at least in number. I've made more purchases in 2021 than any time before, and I'll talk more about those purchases in future videos. But so this is my second historical purchase, and after this, we're only talking about what's going on this year and beyond. We're going to be up in the present and talking about, what prices are like today and what I'm buying today and why. But once again, down in the comments below, tell me a little bit about your purchasing decisions. Did you make multiple poor decisions like I did? And did you start stacking multiple times and then forget? Or are you a smarter and more responsible person than me? Either way, if you like this content and if you want to keep up with those future videos where I talk about what I'm buying in 2021, please do hit that like button and that subscribe button. Leave any thoughts or questions down in the comments below. I'm Scrooge McStacker, and keep on stacking.